Thank you. So, welcome to the Nigerian and Diaspora organization, NIDO Radio, also sponsored by Wellness and Wahala Podcast. This is the Governor Gist Show, and this is your host, Dr. Tomi, better known as Ama Abba. And we have a very special celebrity ambassador. You know, he's a legendary, celebrity. He's one of the founders of Afrobeats, when Afrobeats was not even in mainstream here in the U.S. So I'm very, very happy to have him here. And I will also kick off to say hi to my host, my co-host, Mr. Collins. How you doing?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tommy. I'm doing very well. And thank you, my brother, for coming out participating in this. We are highly pleased and grateful that we all have work to do and we're working towards it. Thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you guys hear his voice. So I don't know, I'll drop some hits. So one of my favorite songs of his is I'm a big boy. I always say I'm a big girl, or, today, not today. Hey, go escape. I go put you fuck on now. Hey. Well, of course, I ain't got the voice, but
that's a decent rendition.
I did try. That is Mr. Lanre Dabiri, better known as eLDee the Dono. Yes, so.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So eLDee, for those of you that don't know, but I'm pretty sure most of you already know who he is. He is credited as one of the pioneers of the Afrobeat music genre. In 1998, y'all, he started a band called Trybesmen, which went on to be one of the music groups that popularized the fusion of hip-hop, highlife, pop, and contemporary Afrobeat, y'all. So he is one of the king masters of Afrobeat. Trybesmen was a continental hit by the year 2000 and played a pivotal role in the shaping of new music genre that became known to the rest of the world as Afrobeats now. eLDee signed a total of 16 artists, y'all. So he had a lot of people on his Trybe Records label. Alongside his music group Trybesmen and other Trybe Record artists, and despite a lack of infrastructure, they produced the massive hit singles Shake Bodi, Plenty Nonsense, Work It, and Oya. And that was between 1999 and 2002. eLDee is also credited for jumpstarting what became the largest physical distribution network for music and movies, Nollywood now, across the African continent in 2001, which enabled the initial reach of influence of Nigerian entertainment across the continent and internationally. So now y'all have like Nollywood, y'all can see it on Netflix. It was really him, that pioneered it, along with so many other legendaries in his time that really brought it up to date. And I'm sure you guys will hear more because he has an upcoming Afrobeats Netflix that's coming up. And after he moved back to the United States in 2002, eLDee recorded 4 solo albums. He won Best International Album in 2007 at the Nigerian Entertainment Awards, the NEA Awards in New York City, for the Best African Artist at the International Acclaimed and UK Home-Based Music of Black Origin Awards, also in 2009. He's one of the first Nigerian artists to secure international music collaborations with U.S. artists and was featured on CNN for his single One Day in 2011. eLDee has worked as an artist, as a songwriter, producer, director, Najaka of Plenty Trezo, and he's, interactive media consultant. Currently, he's into real estate investing. He's an IT consultant. He's a wonderful dad and husband. He has 2 wonderful, beautiful daughters. I call them the 2 T's. I love that because me and my sisters, we're all 3 T's. Tommy Twin and TT. So I, am very honored because, despite all the many things that he does, he's a wonderful father and he's also a lifeline and leader to many of the youths coming up. So over to you to introduce yourself more.
Hey, I couldn't give a better intro. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I was sitting here listening thinking,
who be this? Now you on today, not today. You're on the hot seat, sir.
Who is this person?
Very strong, powerful race with me. He carries a lot of weight.
You carry a lot of weight.
I mean, I would say that I feel privileged to have been born when I was and to have been in that place and time, because obviously it's easy to get credited for doing a lot of those things. I feel like maybe some of those things would have happened anyway. So I actually feel privileged to have been alive and to have been there to be a facilitator. So a lot of that stuff, I mean, obviously wasn't just me. There were a lot of people who also contributed. There were a lot of people who took a chance as well, and helped, sort of shape what became Afrobeats, from a sound perspective, from making videos, from going online, and putting this out there and creating a community and encouraging, a community of DJs in the U.S. and supporting getting music on the radio, in the U.S. and the U.K. and things like that. So there's a lot that has happened, but for me, I'm glad to be alive, to see it all sort of come together, to see our artists being celebrated on the global stage, to see our music being embraced, by pretty much every culture out there. I mean, Korea is embracing Afrobeats. It is such a big deal to me, because when we dreamed of, doing music and going global, we never thought of it going this far. So it's almost like all of the expectations that we had, at least when I started in the late 90s, like all of those expectations have been surpassed, at this point. So I'm just glad to be alive to, soak in the glory of it, and
yes, Well, we are happy that you're one of the trailblazers. As we say, it takes a village. So we know that is you and so many, village of legendary leaders that really, brought Afrobeat to the world, I would say, and put Nigeria and Afrobeats and Nollywood, to the entire world now. Before, it wasn't a cool thing where you play, Afrobeat music. And what is that? Is that reggae? So now, people know, like, we are the originators, so, and, of course, there's other highlife and, legendary artists like Fela, that came even before you, I think, that have paved the way. So it is really good to see, like, Afrobeat really highlighted, in this year 2020. And I, of course, and I'm a big fan of yours, and I just appreciate you. But I want to kick off to my first question. As you are one of our, legendary leaders, you have the best of both worlds, so you grew up in Nigeria, you grew up in Kaduna, went to school in Lagos. Now you transitioned to America. Being a Nigerian American, I always say you have the best of both worlds, but you have a lot of pressure also as a celebrity, to try to make a difference. Because at the end of the day, yes, we might all still be based here in America, and the economy is, better than ours back at home. But we can never forget home. Nigeria is our home. And I think you even did a song with Sound Sultan. I'll play that later. But, Nigeria is always going to be our motherland. So, as we celebrate you as one of our trailblazers, and also as Nigeria turns 62 later this year on October 1st, as you know, our Independence Day. Recently, I was very, very disappointed. And NIDO, we've also just recently started a petition this week and got about 100 signatures so far. And is rising by the day. But I'm really disappointed that our leaders in the Senate, they presented the Diaspora voting bill that we've been trying to get passed for about a decade now, and we still have not got it passed. Despite Nigerians in the diaspora contributing and sending home over $24 billion annually at home. And out of the senators, only 29 senators voted yes, 92 said no. So, how can we, have a voice when we can't even, participate in diaspora voting or have absentee voting? Other African nations have passed absentee voting, like Senegal, like Mali. So, and they have seen the benefits of it. So I wanted, to kick off and say, what are some steps that you think that in Nigeria, can get us back on the pathway to prosperity so we can reclaim, our God-given name of the giants of Africa? What can we do to really advocate to have a stronger voice in the diaspora? Over to you.
So I think, and thank you for that question. It's a really good question. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is, the fact that we don't have alignment on what direction we need to be headed, right? There's so many people who are in positions of power in our government who aren't there for who they're supposed to be representing, which is the people, right? They're there primarily for themselves, primarily for their party, for specific individuals, that have put them there. So they're going to do the bidding of those people, as opposed to the people who actually got them elected. And it's become a thing, right? Over the last 3-4 decades now, that you're able to buy your way into those seats. And as long as that is the reality, it's going to be difficult to get people to do what is good for the country or what is good for the citizens. People will always do the biddings of whoever it is that put them there. So I think one of the things, to answer your question, that we need to start trying to figure out is those of us who truly, genuinely want Nigeria to be a great country, the giant of Africa. We need to start to figure out ways to mobilize like-minded people, and position them to be able to change policy. For example, you mentioned how they voted against having the diaspora participate. That's not a mistake. They know exactly what they're doing. They realize that everyone in the diaspora, well, maybe everyone is too general, but the majority of the folks in the diaspora they're looking back at Nigeria from a place of concern and care and a genuine need to see the country actually be successful, to see it thrive. Now, they've left. They're in different countries. They're okay wherever they are. So there's really no incentive to want to go back to Nigeria, and further deplete the resources or further step on the people's necks. So obviously letting those kind of people into the fold is going to disrupt the current, establishment, right? So obviously they don't want you to vote. Why should you vote? Because if you vote, you're going to come in there and you will support candidates. And if you support candidates, those candidates won't align with the current mission of whoever's running the show. So why should they allow us to vote? And I think that a lot of it is also because of the fact that economic leverage is not being, economic power rather is not being leveraged as it should. I know I have a long-winded answer, but I'm headed somewhere with this. So the idea, from my perspective, this is just my perspective, is that we need to start thinking more how we can use our economic leverage from outside of the country to influence policy in the country. You mentioned earlier how we're sending home, 24 billion? I thought it was more than that.
It's even more, but that's just the one, on record. There's other people that travel and they carry a lot of cash that, we can't account it for. But on average, in the past 3 years, it has varied. Some years it has been like 29 billion. Some years 30 billion. Most recently, I think it dropped down due to the pandemic. For the past 2 years, 24 billion. But we can round up to about 30 billion because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of funds that still get moved. Exactly. People that got private jets that we can't account for, and they move cash up in that jet.
Right. That's true. So, if we have that kind of economic leverage from outside, it's about organizing from the outside and deciding on who it is that we want to support. What are the candidates that align with what we consider to be, a more purposeful mission for Nigeria, right? And then find who those people are and put weight behind them. So you can try to stop us from voting, but you can't stop the fact that we can influence, right? So if we have the ability to influence, it's about organizing and finding out ways to leverage, which initially I believe was the reason why NIDO was set up, right? Because you mentioned that, in the pre-intro, right? It was set up as, diaspora organization that should be able to have some influence, right? But here we are, right? I don't know, 20 years later. I don't know how long ago NIDO's been in existence. And,
You're about right. You're about right. It's about 20 years.
About 20 years, right? And here we are. We can't even get them to say, hey, let the people in the diaspora vote. Like they're not still Nigerians. These things still don't affect them. Like they still don't have family and property and businesses, in Nigeria. So it's about what you guys are doing right now, which I really commend, is reorganizing and repurposing NIDO for things like that. I truly, honestly believe, and again, it's a personal opinion, that a lot of injustice is possible because those that are being taken advantage of do not have economic leverage. So I've made it my personal mission to try to, as much as possible, empower people. That's been like my primary mission over the last 4 to 5 years now. I actually quit consulting in the IT space and started to train people. And the reason that I started doing that is I figured that, kind of like what you just said about us having 24 billion going back home, the more economically empowered people we have outside of Nigeria, the more influence we're going to have over what's going on in Nigeria. So I have a program that I put in place, and shameless plug, but I'll talk about it if you would let me for
Yes,
like 30 seconds.
Plug
I have a program.
Absolutely, please go ahead.
I have a program that is currently in place, and the goal of that program is to train 100 people every year, and those 100 people out at the end of the program, and the program is just a 45-day program, at the end of the program, they are employable in 6-figure income generating positions. And I've done that now since 2016, and it's growing as a community of people. Right? These are people that I also should be talking to about an organization like NIDO, because these are people who have now become part of the global 1%, when you really think about it, because earning $120,000 puts you in the 1%. Not the 1% of the 1%, but it puts you in the 1% globally, right? So if we have more people from our community who are empowered in that manner, what we're talking about now are movements that can actually truly move the needle. Right? If there are people in the Senate who won't allow diasporans to vote because of X, we need to know who they are, so that whoever is running against. So now we can position against those kinds of people. Now we can leverage our ability to actually, again, move the needle, because it takes a village. You mentioned that earlier. It takes a group of people who are deliberate, intentional, and are trying to actually see progress, to come together and actually make the progress happen. So that's kind of been my contribution towards this whole economic empowerment thing. A lot of people come out and say, oh, you used to be very vocal. You used to, be on Twitter and social media. You were talking about this and talking about that. And I said, you know what? I realized after about a decade of complaining that I needed to start doing, right? As opposed to complaining. And this is one of the ways that I've decided, that I'm going to do. And so far, so good. It was 112 for 2021, and hopefully it'll be about 150 for 2022. People that I'm going to move from wherever they are, whatever it is that they're doing, into that 110, 120K annual income bracket. And I know I didn't mention the program, but we can talk about that later. Like the actual specifics of the program, but it is a program that the last 45 days, and we've been very successful, right? And a lot of people have been empowered through that program. And it's not just people in the U.S. either. It's people in Hungary, in Turkey, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Zambia, in Ghana, in Canada, in the UK, Ireland, London. But yeah, it's kind of a global thing. And I think that the more of us that sort of take that approach, the more power we ultimately, I think, will have, as a community, both at home and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is amazing. That is really, really amazing. Let me really commend you on that. I didn't know personally that we're dealing with a global citizen, but but honestly, the way I look at it, I think we'll definitely have a session where you can please come back and we can discuss about this program. I think it will be extremely beneficial to our viewers and listeners. from any part of the world, and it's absolutely, you are just redefining the rules of engagement. Absolutely. You are, I mean, may God Almighty continue to give you the power and the wisdom, the knowledge and all the resources you need to continue to show, the best and bring out the best in everything.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think you gave, I always like using African proverbs. So one of my other favorites is, instead of giving people fish, it's better to teach them how to fish. So, and I think that, you just gave a good example of how you were able, you were comfortable in your own right, but you're like, look, instead of talking about it, let me really change the narrative and put it into action, and using my time, my talent, my treasures to make an impact in other people's lives. And that's how you start a cycle of breaking cycles of corruption, of poverty, generational cycles. And you did it at a global scale. You didn't limit it, just to people here in the U.S. You open up that training, and you're able to be a lifeline to the next generation. And then, that's going to have like a domino effect. You started off, you said your goal is 100. And, before you know it, you'll reach thousands. And then those thousands will reach millions, and those millions will reach billion, So, and that's how each and every one of us, when they say, oh, how can I make a difference? Change starts with you. And most of the time as leaders, in Nigeria, we're always saying, oh, our leaders. No, our leaders are public servants. So that's number one, as a former diplomat and somebody that still works for a federal agency. I tell people, I said, my job is to serve the people. When the leaders do not remember that they're there for the people, they're no longer our leaders, and we need to hold them accountable and uproot them. But just like you said, if you're not economically empowered, if you never chop even bread, your children never chop, how you go even out to go and vote? You don't even have transport. There's fuel scarcity right now. My mom is visiting Nigeria. She's trying to change her ticket. They've been having a blackout in Lagos for a couple of days. A country that is rich in oil, we don't have a refinery. We have to sell our oil, people refine it, and then it's sold back to us. So that type of cycle of madness, we really have to take control. So, and that brings me to my next question to you, addressing our youths, because you have, multiple streams of income. You're really diversified. You're like, look, I'm going to do like a training of trainers program, and I'm going to step down my training and my expertise and build up other trainers so they can train others, and that'll have a multiplying effect. I think that is very essential, because currently, as I read the economic report of Nigeria's unemployment rate, it is currently at 33%, which is the second highest on the global list. A very sad statistic, y'all. And I know, of course, that we have gotten worse on the list due to the pandemic, but that's still not an excuse. We were still a hot mess even before the pandemic. So as a successful entrepreneur, podcaster, real estate investor, IT consultant, agile practitioner, what are some innovative, like smart strategies, like specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely strategies that you can, drop some gems? You already dropped some gems already, but give us additional gems on how we can encourage those youth. There's a lot of people that went to school, they can't get jobs. They got degrees, they got children they need to feed. You know what I'm saying? And a hungry man, not angry man. So how can we really, talk to the youth right now? Nigeria is in an economic crisis. The globe, the whole world, we're on the brink of war. We know what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, America, China, all types of stuff is going on. So everybody sees this civil, economic, and political unrest. So what do you say, especially to those youths now that are like, okay, we're trying to start, but we don't know how? Like, how can we lift ourselves up? Over to you.
That's a really tough one, because I don't know that the youth can actually do much about it. And the reason I say that is, the only thing the youth can do is be hopeful, right? And also, try to stay the straight and narrow path. And unfortunately, that path is being constricted by the day. And much of the constriction is coming from policy, right? If we have an enabling environment for business, Nigerians are entrepreneurial by nature. That's just who we are. We build, we create things out of nothing. We just talked about Afrobeats. We talked about Nollywood. Those are the biggest things that we've created over the last 2 decades. Matter of fact, it feels like those are the only things we've created, right? And those were built from the ground up. And I can speak to those because I was a participant. Those were built out of nothing, right? So I guess my point is, if you're a young person in Nigeria and you're trying to build, it almost feels like, and this is crazy to say, the easiest way to build is to leave, because the environment just won't let you be great, right? And that's what we're seeing. That's why we're seeing a lot of people. There's a huge exodus at the moment. I don't know if you guys are aware, but
a huge exodus.
Pretty much anyone who can leave.
Absolutely. I'm hearing that on the news. Right.
Pretty much anyone who can leave, anyone who can is leaving.
Even
right?
if it's not like abroad, like US or UK, as they think. People are leaving to South Africa, Ghana. They got ECOWAS passport. Right. You can go to West African states. Yeah.
People are going to Kenya, people are going to Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. And so I think if we really want to figure out what the issue is and solve for that, we need to recognize what problem we're actually dealing with. What we're dealing with is a policy problem. And it may be a function of the fact that the people who are in control of making policies don't even know what their duties are, or they're just so aligned to, or they have their allegiances to whoever put them there, that they see Nigeria as a resource that is unending and will continue to give them whatever benefits they're getting individually. So they don't really care about a working environment. As a matter of fact, Nigerian policymakers, every time they see young people trying to do something that's about to be successful, they literally step in to collect rent. And this is how you frustrate every industry, every opportunity that people try to create out of nothing. When we started with Afrobeats, I can almost guarantee you that if the policymakers were smart enough, they would have blocked it. It never would have become what it has become now. They just weren't smart enough. They didn't know what was going on. When fintech was starting to grow in Nigeria a few years back, our policymakers thought the smart thing to do was to regulate. They thought that the best way to control is to come in, regulate, and put in rules. For example, like if you're starting a tech company and there was a fintech company, that you needed a base of 5 billion. Where do you get that from as a Nigerian youth? The only way you can get that is to align with some politician who already lined his pockets. And so now they can have some control, or they can take a little piece of it. When you have a country that is set up that way, how do young people thrive? How do young people thrive? So, again, I go on this long rant, but the point that I'm trying to make is we can't really ask the Nigerian youth for the solution, rather, right? Because they don't have the cards. They're not in control of what's actually going on. What we need to figure out is how to make sure that we can shift policy. That's how we fix it. How do we make sure that education becomes prioritized? How do we make sure that the technical colleges become prioritized? Because not everyone needs to go to college.
Right.
There's so many trades.
They can go to trade school. Yeah.
There's so many, and this is what people are trying to do. A lot of people who have gone to college have come out, and now they want to shoot videos, and they want to make clothes, and they want to do fashion. Not everyone needs to go to college, right? Even the colleges. ASU is on strike as we speak.
Many
if you
of
go
them.
to college in Nigeria, and it's a 4-year course, guaranteed you're probably going to spend 5.5, 6 years, just because, right? These are the important things, right? How do we make sure that when people do graduate, they have work? The states have so much infrastructure to manage, but instead of actually using that as an opportunity to create jobs, they see all of that infrastructure as rent-seeking opportunities. And the more people you put in there, the more exposure you have to what you're doing. So you got to keep it small. When you have a local government office, you got to make sure that there's no more than like 20, 30 people that work there, because those 20, 30 people have to be inner circle people with you, because that's the only way you can steal money. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to actually expand the fire service, the police force, the army, do you guys realize how depleted even those institutions are today?
Yes.
Because the people at the top see those institutions as rent-seeking opportunities. So again, policy. We have to figure out a way to get things moving in the direction that actually creates opportunity so that young people can thrive. And everyone is not looking at Canada or looking at, people are in Ukraine, guys. Nigerians have gone to Ukraine to escape Nigeria.
Yes.
Right? And I use the word escape because that's what it is. Sometimes you just gotta be honest. People have escaped because they've tried and figured out, listen, there isn't enough opportunity here. This place is too constricting. There's not much that I can do, so I need to pack my bags and go somewhere else. Let me go to Ghana first. Let me even go see what's in Ghana. I have friends that live in Ghana now. They move their families to Ghana, and they're okay. And they're people have left Nigeria for Zambia, for Kenya, and they would rather be in those countries just because they have better opportunities there. The security situation is better. The economic situation is better. Their ability to just be is better. So anyway, so I think it may be, and I hate to have to respond this way, but I think it may be unfair to say what can the youth do, because they can't do anything.
They can't do anything. However, I have a rebuttal for that. So because you're so influential in Afrobeats and Nollywood, and I tell people, I said the power of the youths. I used to do a lot of site visits, go to a lot of villages across Nigeria. Out of the 36 states, I think I've been to about 20 or more states, and it's very different. The people there, the challenges in Kaduna is different from the challenges in Kano, Lagos, Ogun states. And some people can travel, they sell all their things. Some people cannot, they that broke, what I'm saying? And they just stuck. So my rebuttal is for those celebrity youths that are in Afrobeats, that are in Nollywood, that actually do have the influence. Because once again, change starts with us, and it don't have to be a lot. So, I see you as somebody that is a voice to the voiceless. You speak on behalf of thousands of youths that don't have a voice. And many of these villages, when I travel, they might not have TV. They might not even have food to chop, but they have a mobile handset. Some of them, they be on social media a lot. I'm like, okay, you ain't got no money, but you put enough data so you can be on social media. So just using that power of social media and using the power of youth ambassadors in Nollywood, in Afrobeat, in the music entertainment industry. And for example, like NSARS, like that was successful because celebrities came out, they mobilized. I think even Burna Boy made a song. Fowles, he has a song, This Is Nigeria. I tell people, I'm like, it only takes a few youths to come out and be the voice to those youths. Because some youth, just like you said, they stuck. They can't travel. They can't do nothing. And that's where I think us in the diaspora have the power, you know what I'm saying, to really make a voice. And I'll give you a really good example of that. So when they had the Bring Back My Girls campaign, that was actually started by a Nigerian youth student in Europe. That, over 200 girls were stolen. Ain't nobody said nothing. The Nigerian news channels, NTA, all of our major news channels here, CNN, nobody covered anything. So it was like, why didn't you guys cover anything? And she now started hashtag Bring Back My Girls on social media and put everybody on blast. And then now CNN, everybody now started, with the hashtag and wanted to interview and go back home. So I say that, and that was just one girl. Many people don't even know that it was, a young Niger student that started, that Bring Back Her Girls campaign. And I think she started a change.org petition and it went viral. So that's my question to you. is that we have a lot of influential Nigerian celebrity youths. And just taking them alone, that's where I see you as a good example and a legendary. You're not just an artist, you know what I'm saying? You're comfortable in your own right. And you could have been like, look, I'm just going to do me and I'm going to take care of me and my family. No. But the blessing in life is to use your time, talent, and treasure to be a blessing to your people and to your nation. If our nation is in shambles, that's going to hurt even our children and children that want to go back home. And we want to, oh, let's go visit back. They don't know their roots. They don't know their history. Why? Because of the insecurity and everything. So my rebuttal question back to you is, how can we mobilize the influential youths that do travel, that do have a voice, that do have influence, and have a huge following of millions of fans all over the world? How can we use them to mobilize, even for like this diaspora voting? Many of these celebrities got dual citizenship. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they have the money and power to fly back home and vote if they wanted to, but others don't. So, but their influence, like that's where it is. It's not, we're supporting your music, we're supporting your movies. You need to support our youth back at home that, you know what I'm saying, can't even make $1 out of 15 cents. You know what I'm saying? So over to you.
Yeah. So I like your rebuttal, because I mean, these are the questions we need. These are the conversations we need to have, right? We need to challenge ourselves. What are the things that we can actually do? My understanding of the initial question was what can the youth do? So if we want to say, okay, what can the influential youth do? It's essentially help to provide some sort of guidance or what I consider to be like the guardrails down the path of where we want to go. Now, we have a challenge, which makes it difficult for influential youth to be able to influence policy. Because I always go back to the fact that a lot of what we're dealing with are policy issues, as opposed to issues of, people just don't care enough. And the people that don't care enough are the people that run things. And they're not there for the people. They're there for themselves. Now, as a comfortable youth influencer, I can sit on my high horse, just call it what it is, right? And tell someone who is in Nigeria, oh, this is what you need to be doing. This is where you need to be focused. This is what you need to, pay attention to. This is who you need to vote for. I can do that because I have a microphone, I'm loud enough, people hear it. But then I think that we forget something. And I learned this in 2011 during the election, right? And I'll use a psychology analogy here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And basically Maslow's hierarchy of needs is sort of like a 3-stage that breaks down into 5-stage pyramid, right? And what it describes is human need and how human needs are essentially prioritized, right? Mm-hmm. So at the bottom of that is the basic needs. There's 2 basic needs, there are 2 psychological needs, and then there's self-fulfillment at the top. For the basic needs, we're talking about food, water, warmth, and the ability to just exist, right? Then we move up to the next level, which is security and safety, right? People need to have security, they need to be safe. And then we move into the psychological needs. So first of all, you have to have those 2 things before you can even move up to the third one, which is belongingness, right? Mm-hmm. And the need to be part of a group, the need to have intimate relationships, friendships. And then you move up from that to esteem needs, which is, the need to feel important, the need to feel accomplished, the need to, and then you move up to the highest level, which is self-actualization. So with self-actualization, it's pretty much at the point where you feel like you've achieved your true potential, and then you can start to do things. A lot of the influential youth that we just, talked about are in the self-actualization phase. Mm-hmm. They've made money, they're okay, their families are okay, they can drive whatever cars they want, live wherever they want to, go wherever they want on holiday. That's where they are. The people you're talking to are at the basic needs level. People are trying to figure out how to eat, how to stay warm, how to be safe. Mm-hmm. They can't hear you. They can't hear you. In 2011, CNN had what is the reporter's name? I forget his name. He was a CNN correspondent to Nigeria at the time, but he took myself and Banky, and we went out for a week pre-elections, and we essentially went out just to sort of, and I think it was an exercise that was intended for us to really get a better understanding. But at the time, he presented it like, hey, you know what? I want you guys to go with me, you know, to these communities and talk to people, the average people who are going to vote in the elections, and try to get a sense of how these people really feel. What are their real, true concerns? What is it that will motivate them to do the things that you guys want to do? Because at the time, myself and a couple other folks had started this thing called Light Up Nigeria, another movement that was started by the youth, right? So Light Up Nigeria is gaining a lot of traction. There's plenty talk about it.
That was a big movement, yeah.
It was a huge thing. So Kristen Purefoy is his name. So Kristen said, hey, you know, LD and, you know, you and Banky, if you guys want to ride with me for about a week. And so I would drive and we would just go to like a different part of Lagos. So we went to Alimosho. It's the biggest local government in Lagos State, right? And we interviewed people and we spent time with them. Like we would sit with them, hang out, have lunch, you know, like be in their environment and actually try to understand what the folks are going through. And at the end of the day, Dr. Tommy and Colin, what we found out was that they weren't even concerned about this whole Light Up Nigeria campaign. It wasn't their primary concern. Their primary concern was, how do I feed my kids?
How I go chop.
How do I eat? How do I sleep in a warm, non-mosquito infested bedroom? How do I find clean water? How do I make sure that I can protect my kids from someone breaking in to steal our one loaf of bread that we're going to eat or that we can hopefully have for lunch or dinner? These are the concerns. So when we're sometimes looking at what's going on, at least what I've come to realize is that a lot of the approaches are a little, I hate to use the word elitist. I think that a lot of the things that we do, sometimes they make us feel warm and fuzzy because we feel like we're doing something. But is it actually making change? Is it actually impacting the people? I can get on Twitter and scream and yell all day long. So have a lot of my colleagues, right? Scream and yell and scream and shout and Instagram this and live that. And I mean, look at what happened, you know, October 2020. So we're here and we're still battling because the average Nigerian can't even relate to that whole situation, even though it's the average Nigerians that died, right? So again, this is not necessarily a rebuttal. I feel like it's just like sharing with you some of the clarity that I've gained from being part of the movements, from starting movements. I realized that what we need to do, really solve this problem, is to change policy. We can't change. The only way we can get to solving the problem of the average person that needs to eat and drink and have water and have electricity and be secure is to change policy. We can't change it. They can't change it. We can change it. And the only way we can change it is we need to restructure the top of the house, which is why I figured that maybe a more effective way to do it is to have people such as yourselves, Dr. Tommy and Colin, and say, hey, what can we do? Because guess what? We're in that self-fulfillment phase. What can we do now that we don't have those problems to make sure that the people that do have those problems don't have to deal with that anymore? The reason why people in the diaspora are able to, you know, be as... Think about it. A lot of these movements start from the diaspora.
They do.
Or by people who are in the diaspora that move back home. They're the ones starting a lot of these movements. There's a reason for that. Because they're in a totally different state of mind. You've seen a system that works. You understand the possibilities. For the person who can't eat, if somebody shows up and says, hey, I need you to vote for me, here's 500 naira, they will take 500 naira. And they will vote for the person.
Vote for the person. That's true. You're right. Absolutely.
Can't change that. We can't change that. You can't tell someone, oh, starve today so that your future can be better. Really? So you trying to tell me that right now I shouldn't feed my kids? I should starve? Well, you're in America. It's easy for you to say. So I don't know if you see where I'm coming from. So I feel like just personally, and this is my personal opinion, that a more effective way to do it
Is at
some
the
of the stuff.
policy level.
And there's so many different ways that we
Yeah.
can do it. One of the ways, obviously, is economic empowerment of people outside so that we can influence that, right? Another way is to, like you said, be active and call attention and help people see, and also help the international community understand that, listen, these are dire situations that people are dealing with. These are human beings in the 21st century that shouldn't be in these conditions, right? So that's one of the ways as well. But yeah, that's my response. I hope it makes sense.
You're absolutely right, because, looking at the whole situation, looking at what the politicians actually does is that every 4 years, they always come out with a bag of rice, a bag of oil, a gallon of oil, a bag of crayfish, and the rest of the basic things that they need, because they know the people are hungry. And they know that the easiest way to get to them is to give them what to eat. Once you come out with it, people will come and follow you, and they will vote for you.
That's right.
So it's like a very bad cycle. For us to break that cycle, like you said, it's the social economic empowerment which you're doing right now. Teaching people different skills on how to be able to build a future for themselves, so that whereby that man comes around again with a bag of rice or a gallon of oil, you'll be like, well, I don't need to take this from you. I can afford this. What can you actually do? What policy can you actually bring on the table that will change the narrative? It's a very challenging situation. We know that we have to be a lot more. Like I always tell people in diaspora, that Nigerian problem affects you directly or indirectly, whether you like it or not. Because I always tell people, no matter how successful we are in America or in anywhere that we are, remember, you're still Nigerian. And one day your children grow and they will ask you, Daddy, what have you done to this country? You said Nigeria is not good, Nigeria is bad, this and that. What have you been able to do? What have you been able to contribute? What changes were you able to drive? You came to America, you had nothing, but you made it. Why can't you train people as well to make it as much as you have done?
Right.
So it's an ongoing conversation. It's not something, I don't think one answer fixes all the problem.
Agreed.
But then again, it's something that the diaspora should keep doing as much as they can. Mentoring, social economic empowerment, outreach, seminars, roundtable discussions. Because the way we can think the way we're thinking right now is because we don't worry about shelter, we don't worry about food, we don't worry about gas money, we don't worry about insecurity, and we pretty much have it all. That's why we can actually sit down in the right mind and think the way we can get it. But this is absolutely an interesting conversation.
Thank you for that, and I think that you're 100% correct. In addition to that, I actually feel like understanding the root cause will help us know exactly how to solve it. And it feels like sometimes when we try to mobilize people, if we focus on symptoms, then we don't really solve the problem. You give someone Panadol when they have cancer, they're going to die, right? It might keep the headache off for a little bit, but eventually they're still going to die. So if we recognize that this is a cancer, what are the things that we can do in order to make sure that we actually cure that cancer? And one of the biggest ways, and people may not even recognize that this has happened before in other countries, is that those of us who have managed to, become NIDO, the diaspora people, that we figure out a way to influence the people who make decisions. Because if Dr. Tomi, for example, were to run for office in Lagos, I know with all of my heart that she would do the right thing. Or at least, I hope.
I go try.
I know that she would do the right thing.
She will do the right thing.
Yes, sir. Yes.
By virtue of the fact that I can sense her passion. I can tell that she really cares for the average person. I can tell that the people who don't have food, who don't have shelter, those people are going to be top of mind. And if people show up and say, hey, here's something that we're trying to do that's going to help those people, she would be willing to do those things, right? So those are the people that we support. And as an organization of the diaspora, I think that those are the people we need to start seeking out. Who are the influencers among us? who can help us? Who are the people in Nigeria who have Dr. Tomi's sort of mindset that we can support? The elections are coming up. Do we know who the candidates are? Who are the ones that we can back? We might not have the economic might at the moment, but it's coming.
Yes,
it's coming because there are a lot of us that have left, and there are a lot of us who are doing very well outside of Nigeria. So if there's that many people, then we have influence, a lot more influence than we actually think we do. So I'm very passionate about this. That's why I keep going back there. It's like my whole thing is how do we leverage that? Because if we can leverage that, we can take any office from any politician. We absolutely can. We absolutely can. We can put our people in there that will actually help the people so that people can now think. We shouldn't expect people that can't eat to think. We have to figure out a way to put people in there that will make sure they can eat so that they can then make choices. They can't. Have you ever been, do you guys fast? Like,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yo, imagine fasting for the year. This is some people's reality.
Some people are skinny. They're not skinny by choice, so they're skinny by hunger. Do you understand? Yeah.
That's true. Absolutely right.
So you actually hit, like, my next question was, how do we mobilize? And you dropped a lot of gems. So first is policy. A lot of people don't understand how to influence policy. And I started off that we have a petition, Nigerians in Diaspora organization. Our next step is to say, okay, those 92 senators that voted no, have a Zoom town hall, a virtual town hall live, and have Nigerians from all over the world, be able to ask them questions. Why did you vote no? And actually, write another petition, because, we have a Nigerian and diaspora, agency in Nigeria, but, they've been trying to push to get this diaspora voting passed. But I think that, we in the diaspora really need to push, because at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, if we have that type of agency, when they voted no, how come they didn't go to each of those senators, and call them and have a town hall in Nigeria live and say, look, a lot of us and virtually, like, Zoom us in. We have technology where, a lot of, federal agencies here, we use, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. We have internet, we have the technology. African Union, ECOWAS leaders, African heads of states, they're all using technology now. So we should be able to hold them accountable. And because NIDO was started by President Obasanjo, he has a lot of connects. And this was started in 2000. Just like I said, this has been over 20 years. It's 2022. And NIDO started in 2020. And, just like you said, we have to be economically empowered. But, it's a multiple pronged approach. It's not just policy. We have to address the economic. There's a lot of good humanitarian agencies, local humanitarian agencies back at home where we can support and say, okay, these people need to eat. If we're going to have a town hall, if we're really addressing those people, make sure food is going to be provided. Make sure it's a stipend. As those people are bribing them 500 naira, we should be able to give them 500 or more. You know what I'm saying? So as they come out, that's how we mobilize. Because at the end of the day, we're human beings. So first they're thinking about, okay, what am I going to eat? Am I even going to have transportation to come to a town hall meeting? So we're saying, look, if you don't have transport is going to be provided. That's what I used to do, working with some NGOs back at home. Even to the point, some journalists, can you imagine, some young up and coming journalists, some of them will come to me on the side and say, Madame, we don't have transport to go back home. And I will have to give money out of my pocket. Do you see what I'm saying? Not my organizational funds, but out of my own personal funds, and say, thank you so much for coming to this town hall meeting. Here's, a stipend to go back home. So we need to budget for that. And say, when we're mobilizing, it's not just, talking about policies, but we need the people. In policy, the P stands for the people, So how can we really speak to the needs of the people? So we know people are going to come and they're going to need food. So we get caterers, we give them foods. If sometimes in some of those town hall meetings, we'll have like takeaway packs, because learning, just working in Nigeria for like over 10 years, going back home. Back then, it's cool now to try to go back home from the diaspora. I want to move back. You know what I'm saying? I want to go to Africa. No, when I left, I was a founder of my Nigerian cultural, student union when I was at the University of Illinois. When I went to Emory, I specifically went to Emory because I knew it was right next door to the CDC. And I said, I have a dream. I'm going to work at CDC in Nigeria. Very calculated, very prophetic. I got my first job. They opened up, the first ever President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief PEPFAR program that happened. And I applied and I was posted to Nigeria. And many of my Nigerian professors, they discouraged me. They said, Tommy, no, you got a good heart. You're going to get killed. Like, just, worry about yourself. Now, that brings me to my last question. Are we willing to pay the price? That's including, Nigerian and Diaspora Organization, South Savannah. We're trying to do things differently. There's a cycle that says in a proverb, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. That's not madness. However, there's a big price to pay and change. And sometimes many of us have to pay it with our lives. We talk about legendary leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., like Nnamdi Azikiwe. So many of our people got assassinated. Let's keep it real. Even Nelson Mandela. I mean, he was in jail for over 10 years, almost 20 years. So it's a price. It's a big price to pay. And just like you are paying the price and of being a leader and training people, empowering people economically, you could have stayed in that comfortable pyramid zone. Like, look, I'm going to take care of me, my family, my children, and that's that. But you really took it to the next level. But that's a price. That takes a lot of your time. That takes a lot of your effort. So I wanted to speak on, that would be my last question. Like, yes, it's a painful price to pay, but do you think it's worth it? And do you really think that we can get this diaspora voting bill passed so we can make sure that there is a free and fair election? Because a lot of people think like, we want it to happen, but we're really not really ready to pay the price. So I wanted to speak on that because, I know it's a painful price. And just like you said, I've been trying to get you on this show, on my Wellness Wahala podcast for a while. And you're very busy. And why? It's not that you're busy for yourself. You've been busy trying to lift other people's and break that cycle of poverty. So I wanted you to talk more about that because you're really a trailblazer.
I recognize the need, right? And it is very fulfilling at the end of each year. Actually, really at the end of every month, because my program is monthly, right? It's very fulfilling at the end of each month to see people go from wherever they were to being in this position where they can now truly live the life that they desire, and they can move away from level 1 and level 2 to that top level, right? There's nothing more fulfilling than that. But beyond that, and this is where what you said about NIDO as an organization is very critical. In order for these people who are now in that self-fulfillment space to be able to influence things, we have to have an organization that drives it. We can't just gather people around every Saturday and say, so what are we going to do about Nigeria? We need to be very calculated, very deliberate, very, very strategic. We need to have tactical approaches to how we do these things, knowing fully well that we're now armed with a legion of Nigerians who have an interest in Nigeria, who can support whatever those activities are. So, for example, you just mentioned about NIDO trying to get this bill passed. You have a petition you need people to sign. Mm-hmm. In my community of folks that have gone through my program, and it's a lifetime thing, by the way, the program. So you go through the program, you start working, I support you, period. With anything that you're trying to do, whether it's building wealth, whether it's doing life insurance, whether it's, building, setting up your family, whether it's establishing businesses in Nigeria, or even being part of an organization like NIDO. So my answers are very long-winded. I hope you don't mind, but
no, please.
A good.
You have the flow, brother. Go ahead.
A good simple step could be, in this case, I have maybe 500 people who've been through this system, is to introduce them and say, hey, listen, we have an organization. There's a Savannah chapter. This is what they're trying to do. I know that they definitely all have a passion for Nigeria and they want to do something for Nigeria. So that could be an audience for making that happen. In a year, 2 years, who knows? We might get up to 700, 1,000, right? So whenever we have these kinds of things that we're trying to address, we know that we have people who don't only have the ears that understand, but they also have the resources. Because that's the challenge with trying to have people that are in Nigeria, entrenched in the madness, fix it. They don't have the time nor the resources. So now that we know that we have a pool of people, and I'm talking about my group, I'm pretty sure there are a ton of people out there who also have similar empowerment programs. There's a gentleman I came across recently by the name Jimmy Tewe or something. He's doing some empowerment programs, right? There are a couple people out there. So maybe Nido, reach out to some of these folks and try to pull all these folks in and say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. And how can we leverage your networks in order to actually influence? I always go back to politics. I think that's the biggest thing. We move that one, we move everything else, because sometimes it feels like, oh, how do we get the guys who are there now to see what we're saying? How do we do a town hall and bring them in and try to get them to listen? But they have to be interested in wanting to do the right thing for them to even show up. They might not even show up because they're like, well, those guys are going to come question me about something that I know I'm doing wrong, but that's not really my goal. So why should I even be there? Why am I even going to go put myself in front of this doctor that's going to grill me? This American doctor that's speaking for me is now going to come out and tell me, what I'm doing. I go
lay it on them. Don't worry. I go call their forefathers, the big boy. That's why I say I go talk to Obasanjo. I go talk to people that they can't say no. For sure.
So and that's the thing, right? Is that sometimes we have to plant our own seeds. Yes. We have to cut off some of these dead, rotting leaves and allow new ones to grow. And being intentional about that, I think, is how we really, the most strategic way to fix this problem is to make sure that we're going in there. You have experience in a domain that isn't very, very exploited in Nigeria, for example. There's no reason why, with your expertise and your knowledge, you're not someone who can be a minister for that domain. You have the knowledge, you have the experience, and you've worked with the best of the organizations globally. So what the hell are we talking about?
Right.
Why aren't we, as the Diaspora organization, backing someone such as yourself and other people who show up and want to do things, right? And saying, these are the people that we want to put in place. Because guess what? Once we have those people in place, everything starts to shift, because what they're going to do is they're going to prioritize certain things. Because what's happening now is just a matter of prioritization. People prioritize their personal pockets over the people. And people realize also that as long as I can keep people in that basic needs scenario, I can exploit them. If I keep them there, then I can take whatever I want.
Keep them down and right.
Keep them down.
That's true.
Keep them
on their
down,
necks, and then every now and
voice.
again give them some air.
Yep.
Every now and again just give them a little bit of water and be like, oh, you gonna do what I need? And be like, oh yeah, sure, please.
Here's some cola nuts. Here's one naira.
So I think
those be your servant for the rest of the life.
But you made a good point, and I think that also goes into, showcasing people's scorecard. Like, you said that we have to get candidates. There are people that we know within our network, within our circle, that have those expertise. They're subject matter expert within any field. We're having electricity problems. We know engineers, you know what I'm saying? Nigerian engineers in diaspora that are doing big things, that are working either for government as top diplomats or even working in the private sector. We know people, in the healthcare industry that can really transfer the health. You talked earlier about education. We have great professors. We have great educational experts here. And just really like sharing that scorecard. Because my whole thing is, you can't change the future unless you can show me what you're doing now. Do you understand? I don't want you as my future leader if you can't show me what you did in the past and what you're doing presently to move your community, wherever you're based in the world. That's why I said you have influence as a Nigerian here, but you have global influence because you have made an impact and you have open up training and you have shared that knowledge, because knowledge is power. That's the training. You share that knowledge and you're able to build global networks. So I think, like, it's now to showcase, because, one thing that we don't do a lot is, like, even when I was introducing your bio, you were, a little uncomfortable, like, who be this? Do you understand? Which is good. I like the humility. That's how God continues to prosper you. However, we got to keep it real. We have to give people their flowers, and we need to be able to, showcase, like, people's scorecard. That's actually one of the things, that I'm thinking about doing in the future. But if we do have candidates, any candidate that come out, whether they're part of us or whether they're part of the opposition, we should have a scorecard on everybody. Like, what have you achieved in the past decade? You understand? What have you done as an individual, for yourself and your family? What have you did for your community, wherever you are in the world, And then what have you did, for Nigerians? Just like you're in the diaspora, but you're still making an impact for Nigerians here and Nigerians all over the world. So being able to have that transparent scorecard, and we can actually say, okay, look, these people were put in that position, and this is what they promised, and this is actually how they score. Okay. And we all know if you score below, 60%, you pretty much fail. So, I mean, everybody knows that. And we can do it as very simple. The scorecard. Did you do this? Green is yes. Red, no. And then I can even do, give you half a point. Yellow, in progress. Like, maybe you started some, but you ain't finished it, because we do that a lot. A lot of our leaders, they start projects, but then they didn't complete it. So at least he started it, because some don't even do it. So that gets me, to my last comment, which is, how can people get in touch with you? This is just the beginning. How can people, for example, you talk about your economic empowerment training. If people wanted to participate, that is listening from all over the world, how can they get in contact with you? Also, you're the founder of Nigerian American Podcast. You talk about a lot of these great topics. So people can also follow you there. But if you can provide your contact information and some of your social media handles and any final words that you have, over to you.
All right. Thank you for that. And I really appreciate you having me. The easiest way to sort of engage the empowerment program is to go to this website I'm about to give you. So it's www.coachdabiri.com. Coach as in COACH, Dabiri, which is my last name, DABIRI.com. So go to coachdabiri.com. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. What I do on there is I actually host sessions. And in those sessions, I'm able to explain the opportunity, and I'm able to sort of explain the framework and show people exactly how it works, right? And then, right after that, then you're actually able to, if you're interested, join the program. When you join the program, it's a 4-week program. And at the end of that program, my guarantee to you, wherever you are in the world, my guarantee to you is that you will be employable, making over 100K US. That's my guarantee. We're also seeing like a scenario with the pandemic where people are working remote from all over the globe, and that has also opened up a lot of opportunities. So I have people who've been part of the program who live in Nigeria and work for US companies, for example. A lot of people, and I'm not talking just working for US companies, they're working for big companies like Walmart, like Microsoft, like LinkedIn. There are people in Finland. There are people in Turkey, people in Australia, people in Malaysia, people in the Ukraine. I have one person in the program who was in the Ukraine. Luckily, she was able to get out, before all of the, madness really started. But the point is, wherever you are, you can take advantage of this opportunity. Again, for me, it's an empowerment opportunity. Obviously, you have to make sure that the folks who are joining this program are people who really are serious. So we have to sort of make sure that it's capped. I can't train 1,000 people at a time. I have to keep it to a small group. So that's the other thing, too, is to make sure that it's people who are truly ready to take that next step, to get to the point where you can be economically, at least financially, you can gain escape velocity, right? So if you're interested in the program, go to www.coachdabiri.com. It's everything from there on is straightforward. You register, you join the webinar, you figure it out. You talk to me. And if you want to reach out to me directly, my Instagram handle, Instagram is probably the best way, is at LD the Don. That's at ELDEETHEDON. So LD the Don is my Instagram. It's probably the quickest way. But, again, CoachDabiri.com for the program.
Thank you. And I will drop those links and also your IG handle in the profile. But over to you, VP, for some of your words.
And I cannot wait to invite you to Nido American South Savannah, please. I am extending my Olive branch to you, please.
Is it an in-person thing? Because I would love to come to Savannah.
Oh, absolutely, please. And anytime that you want to come to Savannah, I am there. Just you don't need an invitation to come, please.
Excellent.
Just text me, say, hey, I'm coming to
He
Savannah.
is the chairman. We told him he's the chairman. I told him he need to send one of his private jets to come get me. But
my sister, don't get me into trouble. I'm the chairman.
But we coming. We coming.
Sorry.
Savannah is beautiful.
Absolutely.
So they did the in-person launch in October due to the pandemic. We have people, all over. So some people were still able to do virtual. We're planning, hopefully, in the future to have another one. But of course, Chairman, your house is open anytime. We're coming to crash in Savannah.
You are more than welcome. Please, you do not need any invitation. Please bring as much as you can. Let's tackle this problem. I've always tell people, I say, I have never visited any country that tells me that this country was developed by foreigners. Dream, the positivity has to come first from the citizens of that country. Where else are we going to go? We are Nigerians, irrespective of us holding American passports and the rest of them. Living in America for so long. We are Nigerians. We cannot be so successful in anything that we're doing, and our home is in shambles. We cannot. When you sleep, you don't sleep well.
Yeah.
Just like Dr. Tommy was saying, the mom went to Nigeria, a woman that had worked all her life, raised her kids, very successful, just to go to Nigeria and spend her own money. She cannot even have a decent electricity. She cannot have good roads. Just look at it from all ratifications. We have to do something. And the more we talk about it, the more we do something. Like you're already doing a lot. You are doing a lot. I really, really applaud you for that. And to be honest with you, what I'm looking at in NIDO is that people like you should be called and be given an award for what you are doing. Because these are ways to motivate you to do more. These are golden opportunities. You're still a young man just like I am, but you have done way more than a lot of older people have done, than a lot of politicians that we have in Nigeria have done. I do not even think there's any politician in Nigeria that actually had the kind of mindset that you had and did what you have done. Honestly, when we talk about leader, you are a true leader.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I really, really extend that warm invitation, please. Come to Nido South Savannah. Let's make things happen. Let's work together. Bring all the bright minds that you can. Let's make things happen.
Okay.
Please. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.
No worries at all. Thank you, and I appreciate it. And like I said, this is what I want to do. So I feel like I'm already doing it. So if there's anyone that's headed in the same direction, let's get on the bus together. And let's move.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Tommy, for organizing such a wonderful discussion.
No, he's awesome.
Great.
He's awesome. And I would like to leave everyone with the African proverb of the week on our Governor's show, that will also be played on Nido Radio, Nigerian and Diaspora Radio, and Wellness and Wahala podcast. And the African proverb of the week is from Kenya, East Africa. It says, peace is costly, but it is worth the price. So going back to what I say, we all have to pay the price. And the proverb says, peace is costly, but it's all worth the price. So I salute you, eLDee, the Don, Lanre Dabiri. Thank you for paying the price and being a blessing.
Dabiri.
Yes, Coach
Coach,
Dabiri.
Coach
Everybody go
Dabiri, yeah.
in.
Not just call him LD, call him Coach Dabiri. So
Coach Dabiri. Oh,
yes.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
And please let people know we're here today. We're here today in Atlanta for the charity, the Gwinnett County food distribution. Let anybody know, please, if they can come to Old Cross Road. We're giving out food from the county of Gwinnett County. They can come and get some fresh fruits and everything.
You're in Gwinnett right now?
So he just drove down from Savannah in this rain, and they have a food drive. And going back to what you said, maybe I should resume it back. But going back, Mr. Collins, tell them about the food drive that you just drove from Savannah all the way here to Atlanta and Gwinnett County. I'm going back to giving people, that are really in need of food and in the midst of this pandemic. Over to you.
Yes, personally, I love to volunteer and I believe in giving back to society. I personally took off today from the office to come down to Atlanta with some of my good friends, close friends in Nigeria, American, and Chamber of Commerce to be able to work with the city of Gwinnett County in the food drive that they have. So it's a volunteer thing. We volunteer to feed about 400 to 500 families on a first come, first served basis. We have a lot of food, milk, eggs, fresh vegetables for any family member that is hungry or that needs the food. Please feel free, come here. All you need to do, come here, just open your trunk, we'll put in the food for you, and you take it home. That's what I'm here for. I'll be here till about 5 or 6 p.m.
What's the location?
The location is, the location is in Old Cross. Let me pull it up, sir. Hold on.
In Norcross, right?
Is it in Norcross?
Yes. The location is, they had it's called 1848 Old Norcross Road, Lawrenceville, Georgia.
I know where that is, yeah.
Yeah, 1848. There's an event center there called Opal. It's in the same building, and they have a Redeemed Church there as well. There's a Redeemed Church there at the building. So the place is called a Cruz Plaza.
Cruz Plaza.
1848.
Cruz Plaza, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Plaza, yeah. 1848 Old Norcross Road, Lawrenceville, Georgia. That's where I am right now.
Okay.
And we'll be here till like 5 or 6 p.m.
Recording stopped.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
Please, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
once again. So I know you guys are both busy, so thank you for taking time out. I know you were driving in transit from Savannah, so drive safely. I'll try to pop in after I pick up my daughter from school.
Please do. Coach, please, if you are free, please do.
Because I know, is it still raining?
It's still raining here.
Well, it's still
raining my side.
It won't stop us. The rain ain't gonna stop us. Yeah.
Okay. If the rain isn't crazy, probably around 2:30, I might actually swing by there.
All right, please. Yeah. I'll be here. Sir. I'll be here. I'll be more than happy to meet you in person.
No worries. I look forward to it as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tony.
Salute.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you, VP.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tommy. Make I rush, make I go catch up with them, man.
Okay, go catch up with them.
You're coming now?
Yeah.
You're coming, right?
I go come.
Okay, all right.
I go come.
Okay. All right, then.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.